I'm good. Kind sir. Hey, I had a ball last week on that ride.
Your contract shows. Boy.
Scored the wall. That was really fun.
You stayed and watched and see the wall?
I did.
You go to the program?
I was out of town. Yeah, no, I was out of town, so.
Well, it was every night, every day they had.
I see that.
I was so happy I stuck around.
Good for you.
Okay, well, hang on just one second.
And. It's just now your plus benefits.
No, it's good. I got a hotel room for the Thursday night.
I got.
Yeah,
Back up the truck.
Indian, pretty good. How you doing?
You ready?
Ready, even when I'm not.
Needs one more minute.
Good morning, all. We're a little tardy this morning. The Kane County Finance and Budget Committee, Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, and it's 9:03. Roll call.
Should be here.
Louis here.
Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
Burgess, Pepe,
Tempe here.
Leonard.
Here.
Berman.
Who's here? Thank
And
you all for
Christopher?
being here.
Oh, we're here for the day.
Oh, wow.
You're not buying lunch today, are you? That was last time.
I'll chip in.
Oh. The remote attendance requests. We're all here.
Everybody's here.
That's significant. Approval of minutes from the April 24th, 2024 Finance and Budget Committee meeting.
Louis requests unanimous consent of the minutes from April 24th.
Anybody against that? Let it be. Approval of minutes. Next item is public comments on agenda items. I have Kathy Fiesberg.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, I think it's sad that some of these meetings don't start with the pledge. I mean, we are in a government building. This is a government meeting. I know some of you may not want to recite it, but a lot of us do. We're Americans. We're patriots. I think all meetings should start with the pledge, and if you don't want to say it, you don't say it. This isn't a football field. Okay, before I talk about the resolutions, I was hoping Corinne was going to be here because I've been going over a lot of this stuff, as you guys know, and I'm noticing that when you guys are given the payables, it's okay, every month. You're not being given all of them. You should be giving every single check that leaves the county. I'm pretty sure you should be okay in the payroll, everything. I know there's a few different checking accounts. I don't see any payments from ARPA coming out. I don't see, there's no check numbers. No, there's no general ledger account numbers. It doesn't include automatic payments. It doesn't include P cards, online purchases. There's a lot of purchases that you guys are not seeing. And that's not right. Because if I'm not seeing it, you're not seeing it. The other thing is that nothing's been put in the archive or library since 2021. Everything should be being put in the archive at the end of every year. Hello, Corinne. Green. Sorry. And she can catch that afterwards. And then as you branch out into committees, like yesterday, we had the environmental committee. You have a budget. I'm sure that you have a separate general ledger account number, so your people should get paid under different general ledger account numbers. I mean, everyone, so every time you branch out into a different committee, more general ledger account numbers should be created to keep track of those budgets and blah, blah, blah. And unless those things are printed, can't see what's happening to the budget. Now I want to talk about resolution 24-076. The only reason I bring this up is I see, well, it's sort of vague. It talks about, I don't know if this is an error, if another department's getting reimbursed, but I'm pretty sure that you do not make adjustments to payroll, taxes, insurance, unemployment, and IMRF accounts. Once that check is written, those funds, those have to stay there. You can't just take them out because you want to transfer 100,000 to another. Do it another way. I mean, you are taking some out of the computer and office supplies. That's how you need to do it. I'm pretty sure you won't balance at the end of the year. So, and if a check's voided, then you don't have to worry about it. But if it wasn't voided, I'm pretty sure you don't touch these accounts because you'll never balance. I don't know how you're going to balance, especially when you run W-2s at the end of the year. Okay, that's that. Bid number 23032, I just thought that $449,000 to do that work is extremely high. You've got an existing building, you're converting a big room into a big room, maybe taking a little out for a hallway. So you're putting up one wall and you're building bathrooms. I'm thinking 2, and that's $500,000. I just doesn't seem right to me. And if that's the cheapest bid, I don't know, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I would be really questioning that bid. And then I would just urge, I mean, I know you're doing a Haddock committee for the budget cuts. I don't know how big Haddock committees have to be or anything, but I would think you guys as a whole could come up with a lot more budget cuts than just a small group of people. So maybe that conversation could be held between all of you. Because I think a lot of budget cuts have to happen in this room because I see a lot of spending. And then my last thing I want to say is I've listened to it for over a month now. David Young keeps on bringing up, he wants a resolution put up there for voting, the illegals voting. I do not believe after reading the rules that the chair has a right to deny that resolution from being put on the.
Thank you. That's all I have is signed up for to speak on agenda items or non-agenda items. Item 7 is our trade report. Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. First of all, I'd like to say that none of what I'll present today is possible without the smooth operation in the collections area of the Treasurer's Office. What the Treasury team is doing right now in just next door, in the room next door, along with the county clerk and the supervisor of assessment of collecting $1.6 billion. So that's 1,600 millions of dollars from 199,000 property taxpayers. None of what I present today is possible without a smooth running of the collection operation, which is primary in our office. So we submitted our report 8 to 10 days ago, so it's on file. I'd just like to concentrate on one item today and an important suggestion. Charles, could you put up, oh, Charles went away. I'm just going to ask Charles to put up page 8 to focus the discussion. When that goes up, basically last year, fiscal year, November 30th of 2023, our team exceeded the board's budget expectation, which is the red line was the projected or the budgeted according to the board. That was 2023. As you can see from the green line, the top line, we produced nearly 17 million. So there's an additional $15 million for the board to be spending this year or to be saving and putting into reserves. This year, those are the blue lines on the chart. That's the progress so far this year in fiscal year November 30th, 24. That's the projection for this year is 6 times, 600%, 6 times more than last year's budget, or approximately $12 million. And it looks at this point that we'll meet or exceed the target of the 12 million. Don't know if it's going to be this as much as last year, but the target of 12 million, I believe that we should meet or exceed that. To put that in context of what $12 million means is the maximum cost of living property tax increase is a little less than $3 million a year. So the maximum cost of living property tax increase, I think the thing that our constituents are the most sensitive to, that $12 million that comes in interest income is 4 to 5 times that much. So if the board uses it well, in a 4-year term that I've been granted by the folks who vote all of us in, if you aggregate where I think we're going to come out in 4 years, you'll have 40 to 50 millions of dollars. Thinking in, like 5-year planning, but just 4-year planning. In those 4 years, there should be between 40 and $50 million. And so much of it's due to professionals managing our funds. And the Federal Reserve has done heavy lifting. Here's my suggestion. I listen very closely to the current leadership, discussing the struggle, the wrestling match with the budget, and then the interest income. And it sounds to me like the perception of the general rule for employing interest income is that you cannot use interest income earned on cash balances. You cannot use it unless it's specifically allowed. Over the last month, I've done some research and found that, in fact, the state statute, and I brought it with me today and happy to share it with anybody, wanted to get it up on the screen, but I was too slow on that. The state statutes say the exact opposite. I contacted David Harris, who at one time was the Adjutant General of the Illinois Army Reserves. He then served for approximately 10 years as an excellent state representative. Again, 10 years. He's now the Illinois Department of Revenue Director. Called him up, asked him for his thoughts on it, and he sent me to his lawyer. And the lawyer sent over a note suggesting that, well, what we should look at is, a section 311.005, where it says, all earnings accrued on any investment or deposit made by the county treasurer, ... shall be credited to and paid into the county treasury for the benefit of the county corporate fund, which is the general fund, to be used for county purposes, except as provided otherwise. So the general rule is you have it. And it's the exceptions, the smaller exceptions are what needs to be proved up. So if you don't mind my suggestion, an assignment that should go to somebody who's very knowledgeable in this area is, number one, understanding the general rule is that is the general fund usable money, the interest income. However, there are some restrictions, but it's like the emphasis has been on the restrictions. And I think as you get closer to trying to balance the budget, you're going to need to have more funds. And when you need that, I would just suggest if you look at the interest income, it might help. Okay. So the other, another piece that's very interesting, and I trust that you already know this and you've talked about it a lot, but according to the US Department of Treasury, you know that the COVID money that came into the county and then the interest that was earned on that goes into the general fund. And let's see. And I'll provide this in a chart or, like a quote. But it says, number 3, in the regulations, cash management, the coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund and coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund, why they make these so long, don't know. Payments made to recipients are not subject to the requirements of Cash Management Improvement Act and the Treasury's implementing regulations. But the important sentence is, as such, recipients, that's us, can place funds in interest-bearing accounts, which we did, and do not need to remit interest to the Treasury and are not limited to using that interest for eligible uses under the award. So again, it's an example of a large chunk of money that's at your disposal. Many other examples, but what happens in King County the last couple of years, at least that I've seen, is that there is a bookkeeping entry that is, you can direct otherwise as a county board, that the bookkeeping entry scatters all this massive amount of money across 300 funds. And anything divided by 300 is going to be smaller. And it's going to end up being spread out and then wasted. So many strategic like advantages are concentrate your fire. The Prussian General von Clausewitz, the principle of concentration of fire, Alexander the Great, infantry, coalesced into phalanxes. Rugby, you go over the ball in a scrum, but it's if you aggregate the money rather than scatter it across 300, I think you'll have a lot more resources to get done what you want to get done. That's all I had today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Any questions of our treasurer? Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to ask Mr. Franks to research this area for us so that we definitively know whether or not we can use this interest money, and if we can, how we can use it.
SEO Frank, we're happy to look at it again, but as you know, we've looked at it before and provided an entire analysis of it, but I'm happy to look at it again and even look at it through different contexts. So if you want to reach out to me and tell me kind of the specifics, or if the treasurer would like to do that, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I think that's probably my concern. Maybe we didn't look at some of the different specifics that the treasurer noted here. And I'd like to just check that out, make sure that.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. Just let me know, Mr. Lawson, if you want to let me know specifically what you're looking for, we can check that out.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Bates, please.
Bates.
As I recall, Miss Hopkinson, I don't see her. Are you? Okay, hi. Was quite distinct about the use of interest earnings in the general budget, because it can be so variable. So that's I would just want to bring that into the conversation with Mr. Lawson, that that seemed like a very important point.
Any other comments? Well, I think one thing is that interest goes into some accounts that are reserve accounts that we obviously can use at our discretion. It's not like it's not being available. Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Auditor's report, Ms. Wegman. It's not Penny.
Good morning. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the deputy auditor for the auditor's office. The auditor's report is on file. If there's any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, check the auditor's office.
Any questions of the auditor? Yes, sir.
She said we were supposed to grill you. She was gone, so I'm not sure where we're.
Go ahead.
Welcome.
Thank you.
No question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I have a resolution moving the April 2024 claims paid of $18,329,263.08. Do we have a motion?
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez moves.
Juby seconds.
Juby seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby? Yeah.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe, Leonard, Berman.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Item number 9 is Finance Director's Report. Ms. Hopkinson.
Hello. In your report, you should have the finance monthly director's report. I'll just highlight, I have a new schedule, which I've included. If we can go down to the finance director's report. Yeah, not that page, the one after. And if you can make it a little bigger. One of the things that I thought could be interesting to look at is the budget to actual of the general fund over the most recent years, as well as what explains some of the differences in the current year. So I'm going to start providing this schedule each month. And on the right side, you've got some explanations with the notes at the bottom. There's a lot of things going on in the general fund, so I kept it high level. But one thing I want to call your attention to is at the bottom of the report, you'll see a row that says fund balance utilization. And as you know, for our budget for 2024, we budgeted about $10 million in fund balance to balance our general fund budget. If you look at the actual, because of the changes in cash flow. So for example, right now, as the treasurer is mentioning, we're collecting property tax revenue. So the first several months of this fiscal year, we haven't had that particular significant inflow of cash into our general fund budget. So if you look at our actual revenue and actual expenses to date in our general fund, we're obviously low on the revenue side and the expenses are where they should be, but we're using essentially more of our fund balance right now. This is going to change when I put this schedule before you next month. You'll see that change because our revenue will go significantly up with our property tax revenue coming in. But I just thought it would be interesting to watch this in a way to see how we use fund balance throughout the year, sort of a cash flow metric. So I'm going to start including this report, and if anyone has any questions on this.
Mr. Chairman. I had a question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Roth.
Kathy, Roth here. Is our expectation that we'll go to a positive by next month with the tax coming in? Because it looks bad now, but.
Right. I don't know. I mean, it's that definitely the revenue is we get more of our property tax revenue in the first installment typically.
Right.
So I don't know if it'll come all the way up, but it should improve. I mean, we're budgeted to use fund balance anyway.
Right. No, I understand.
So I don't know if it will match or exceed.
Did you do, Kelly, this is for as of April?
I ran this report last week. in
Okay, so
preparation
as
for
of.
this meeting. So in the
last
middle
week.
of the,
Okay. Have you done the prior months, January through April then, to see, I'm sure it's going the same way because we're not, like you said, we get all our money and a lot of our money in June.
right, in chunks.
And then compared to prior years, I would expect the same.
Yes, Yes, it
But
would
this
be the
isn't
same
anything
in prior
new.
years. Every year, the county's cash flow. I mean, if we were a business,
Right.
this is how I like to look at this. If we were a business and we didn't have fund balance, we'd be taking out a working cash loan
Loans, right.
right now to operate until we got the rest of our money.
And that's true in the corporate world. I mean, retailers, 80% of their revenue is made in the fourth quarter, or December. So you have the same
This is
thing.
typical. This is,
Right.
this is the norm.
Right, right.
This is the norm, but it
Okay.
is interesting.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to report, but then we'll be able to be aware of the pattern. Thank you.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, you talk about tax and anticipation warrants that different businesses, not businesses, but different organizations use to cover that.
Right. And then I'll mention one other thing just on the revenue side, because I know several people have asked me about this, about, potential impacts if the grocery tax is eliminated. I've looked back at the last several years because there was a suspension of that grocery tax from July 1st, 2022 through June of 2023. And when you look back at our sales tax revenue over the last, let's say, 3 years, it's almost the same every month. It's about $2 million a month. And I think most likely what happened is the increase in prices due to inflation in 2022 and 2023 sort of masked the elimination or the suspension of the grocery tax during that time frame. So it's really hard to tell. And we've also talked with the Illinois Department of Revenue. It's very hard to get an accurate read on the impact of such a elimination of that sort of a tax because they do not police retailers who code their transactions. And they gave us all sorts of examples, but they couldn't even give an impact. They can't give us an impact, but it would, I think it would go without saying that it should have some kind of an impact, a negative impact, but it's hard to tell at this point. So I'm just going to talk then about some things going on in the with the budget process and with the audit process right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Here, hi, Kathy, regarding this, can you, regarding the grocery tax, I've read briefly about it, what was just in the newspaper, and it has been passed. The House passed it last night, so it's going to the governor's office. My concern is twofold. Obviously, some of our non-home rule municipalities are going to have to go and ask, I believe, if you can just check on that for us, ask the voters via referendum if they can initiate this tax back on the 1% or whatever level up maximum up to 1%. And is there any responsibility for the county to do that for the non-home rule? I really don't know.
I don't know yet. Right.
So perhaps we can ask our chief of civil here to respond to that, to do a little research to see if we have any responsibility in that area.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
One more question. I wanted to highlight because I don't know if we're skipping over. Revenue's down 17%. That's more than a nit. Is that a pattern we're seeing developing or is it a blip for this? We're down.
Overall, well,
Yeah, well, we're down
overall,
5.
it's because of the it's the property taxes that haven't come in, even though I took that into account when when I did the calculation for expected, I took that into account. It could be some timing differences.
Okay.
It could be. Some
Well, but this is an action. I mean, you said, actuals through as of last week, right? And the budget would have been through last week too?
Right.
Or
But it could be some timing differences on some reimbursement revenue that hasn't come in
okay.
yet.
And that's why I'm asking. So you're not concerned about that at this point?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Continue.
So just gonna give some highlights on the audit process. So our audit process is finishing up. Our audit firm Baker Tilly told us last week that we will be receiving a clean audit opinion on the county's books, which is good. That's for fiscal 2023. We're still putting together the annual comprehensive financial report known as the ACFR. That's going to take us a few weeks yet to put that whole book together. So we'll have that done shortly, but the good news is that we have a clean opinion. The budget process is underway. We have most of the departments finishing up. We've got a few that we're working with to finish up. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will have the departments meeting with their committees, their home committees. And then in July, we'll have presentations to the committees. So the process seems to be going along schedule, and we're excited in the finance department to be using some new tools and technologies to save ourselves a lot of time. So that's exciting. Also want to highlight, we have some new employees. They're here. Okay. I'll start with our senior accountant budget analyst who joined us in October. Just didn't get a chance to introduce him. Chris Bowles, right here. A lot of the departments across the county have been seeing Chris's name the last couple months. He's been doing outstanding work assisting with the budget process. And then last month when I was here, wanted to introduce, we have a summer intern, Sydney Clinton from Sugar Grove. Sydney. She's actually helping us put together the ACFR because we have to do a lot of data entry to get that book put together. She is going to Grand Valley State, I think, and she went to Kaneland High School, and she's just terrific. And then our grant administrator, which is a brand new position to the county, Paul Kofer, started yesterday. Paul, I'm just going to have him introduce himself. This is a role that was put in the budget. It's specifically going to start out looking for funds for health department, development department, and environmental management departments.
Hello, I'm Paul. As Kathy said, I'm the new grants administrator, so I'll be looking at areas in health and development and water and environmental resources, see if there's any new grant funding out there. Look at how the grant process in the county is running right now, and maybe do some strategic thinking to look at how those plans could be changed.
A little louder, please.
Sorry. How we could just make the grant process maybe a little bit more efficient, get more funding coming in and just manage that entire process more efficiently, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Could I have your name again, please?
Yes, it is Paul Kofer.
Paul Kofer, K-O?
C-O-F-E-R.
Thank you. What?
From the health department, right?
Surges. Who's at Grand Valley? So Sid, are you at the campus downtown on the river? Right, lucky you. That's a beautiful campus.
Thank you very much. We all know how important grants are to the county.
Mr. Chair?
Davis.
No, Mavis Bates, that's fine. We applied for $114.5 million grant to the CPRG. And we haven't won yet, so don't go out and spend the money. But they were expecting 1,000 applications and they only got 300. So we are 3 times as good as we thought we were. So we'll find out someday.
Yeah,
we'll spend it before we.
Yeah, as part of the interview process, we had the directors of the health department and development and environment all part of the interview process. And we talked about those opportunities. And I think with Paul's background, one of the things that hopefully he's going to bring is some strategic thinking to the grant process and trying to maybe get, we're going to have him go out and meet with even though he's going to be focusing on some core departments, have him go out and meet all of the grant managers across the county just to get an understanding of how we're managing grants all across the county. So he does have a philosophy degree, which is interesting for the accounting department. So I like it. And just another last couple highlights, just in terms of efficiency and things to look for coming forward in the finance department. We are, and I've been talking about this since I got here, is putting in a forecasting tool. It's the same forecasting tool I used when I was at KDOT. It's going to require some consulting fees to move all of the other funds across the county into this software. So I will be bringing a resolution forward in the months coming, probably next month. And then also we put out an RFQ for accounting services. And the reason why we did this is there always seems to be a need across the county for accounting services. So we put out an RFQ so we can pre-qualify several firms. We had 4 firms respond, and we're evaluating those now. And that is all that I have. There's one other item on the agenda on the strategic plan. So I was asked to bring this up because this idea of having the county conduct a strategic plan has been circulating for months, really. And so I was asked today to bring up to the finance committee the possibility of what your thoughts would be in having the county conduct a strategic plan. I have no resolution today. That is something that I can bring forward at a subsequent meeting. And that would be hiring a consulting firm to lead the county through a strategic planning process. So that is up for this committee's discussion.
Sturgis.
Kathy, I think that while we are easily the most functional board in the whole world, I think it would probably be a good idea if you would lay out for us your interpretation of what a strategic plan is, the goals that we're trying to achieve with that. This way, the expectations, you have 24 people in line with where we're going, rather than getting halfway through this and realizing you're herding cats.
Right.
So just if I can just throw that out there, that would be awesome.
So my best, well, I can give you a little, I mean, typically organizations do strategic plans. It's a process. You do almost like an organization review. You pull together internal focus groups, external focus groups, really trying to get at what should your, there's like a echo. What should your strategies be, and why would the county want to do something like this? The county would want to do something like this to help better align where you put your money, in theory. So if the results of all of your analysis and your focus group says that this particular program or service deserves more attention and more funding than another, that would be one particular use of a strategic plan.
Ms. Bates.
I'd like to thank Ms. Molina especially, and she and I were having a conversation about where are we going, and she helped me take this to Madam Chair and to you as an idea for what we could do for King County. There's an old saying, it's hard to get somewhere if you don't know where you're going. And I'd like us to know the direction that we're headed. And also it's a way to pull together some of the other plans that we already have. So I think this would be a very valuable effort for us.
Do you have something? Any other comments, Madam Chair?
Thank you. And perhaps the one thing we can look at is make sure that we reach out to our community members as well to do a survey, an appropriate survey of what their interests and needs are for the county. So because we need to align with their needs and our municipalities. So sometimes we're separate, but most of the time, I think we should be together.
What we're looking for then is a recommendation from our committee to the county board to, do a strategic plan. That's what we're looking for.
So I can put together like a slide presentation for next month.
Very good.
And, yeah.
I think that's what the consensus is. I'd like to see.
All right.
With an RFQ.
It would probably be an RFP.
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 Mr. Chair, thank you. Kath, and I don't know the answer to this, but a strategic plan is presented and reviewed at what frequency? Every 3 years, every 10 years? What is?
I mean, it shouldn't just be done one time. You're correct. They're typically built in like refreshers. And I think anybody who's been involved in any sort of an organization that has done strategic plans, you'll find yourself doing another strategic plan, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years after you did the first one. So that's typically what happens. If you look at some of the other counties around here, DuPage, Lake, McHenry, they all do strategic plans. I think DuPage is going through an update right now. They have one right now, but they're doing a refresher of
I
it.
guess my point is, if you're forming the genesis of this, if you could embed within there the notion that there will be a frequency by which this is reviewed, put it in upfront to set the expectation for whomever the next 24 might be.
Sure.
It could be every quarter, it could be every 6 months.
Yeah, whatever we think that rule of thumb is.
Yeah, and typically when you do a strategic plan, part of going through that process is developing performance metrics, which we have all sorts of those in our budget book. And we've kind of been doing, I'll call it a strategic plan light, with the focus on outcomes this year in the budget process. And typically what you need to do if you're serious about having a strategic plan is you identify some key performance metrics, and somebody is reporting on those to the board, as you said, on a quarterly basis. Because then what's the point of having a strategic plan if it's just another spiral bound book to sit on a shelf?
Well,
right.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm just a bit confused. So is this a financial strategic plan? Because we have we're going to have an economic development plan. We have a 2040 plan. We have a farm plan. I mean, we have so many different things that we're working under, and we have so many consultants right now that we're paying so much stuff to. I'm personally having a hard time keeping up with all of our plans right now. So
typically if you're doing a strategic plan, finance is just one component of it. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the other counties, it's all encompassing. And it can wrap in some of the other plans. And if you consider that there's other plans that are done, then there's a lot of legwork that's already been done. You just roll that into your overall strategic plan.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that, any organization, especially at this size and scale, should be following, all actions should be related to a strategic plan. The fact that we haven't had one it's kind of scary, but we've made it this far. We don't have a strategic plan, not since I've been on the board. And this is something I think, a county administrator would be spearheading the movement on and refreshing every 3 to 5 years for us. So I appreciate Ms. Hopkinson for taking the lead on this because it's very important, and I'm looking forward to this process.
Madam Chair? You were speaking.
Oh, I didn't have my hand up, but I'm in full support of this. I think it's necessary. It'll be a guideline for the current and future boards on where we're going to be going. And that guideline is just a roadmap, and that roadmap can change based on the dynamics of the need of the county, but it's a measurement tool. Have we achieved these goals? If not, why? And why should we divert from what was the objective?
Roth?
I think we do need to tie in all the other plans. I mean, we got the 24 plan sitting up on the shelf, and it's nice and big, and it should feed into it. And the comment that we'll redo it in 3 to 5 years, Kathy kind of made the comment, we're going to report quarterly And we may have to make adjustments accordingly and not say, oh, we got to wait 4 more years to make the change. Because you got to execute, because a lot of plans are nice, but if you don't execute them, they're worthless.
So one of my personal just work experience, career experience, plans, as you said, as soon as you put a plan together, as soon as you put a budget together, it changes. I think one of the best outcomes of putting a plan together, putting a budget together, putting any sort of document like that together is the process itself, because you learn a lot. Forcing everybody to sit down and think about things in the future is sometimes identifies all sorts of other things in operations and efficiency wise. So the process itself is sometimes just as good as the end document, in my opinion.
Interesting.
I have one question. Who would coordinate this strategic plan and report on it on a quarterly or whatever the basis is? Who would be the who would be the strategist for our strategic plan? That's my question.
That would be up to you.
Well,
Yes.
as I see it, my experience would be that we'd have an executive director or a administrator that would be the one that would cover this. We don't have that in our environment, so I don't know what.
I think in lieu of an administrator, sir, perhaps, I don't mean to interrupt, perhaps it would be in charge of the executive committee because there'll be sections that would be each representative of each committee. And it would be their responsibility on a quarterly basis with their staff to report upward.
Good enough.
Thank you, everybody.
I think that
Thank you.
the feeling is that we certainly need a strategic plan, and I'd welcome what you present to us next meeting. Oh,
It's
thank you
so-
ver- Thank you. There were no more questions of Kathy. Moving on, new business. Budget adjustments. Item A, a resolution amending the Growing for Keene Fund fiscal year 2024 budget to account for land transfer and navigator grant program of $100,000, the original grant, and $25,000 expense.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez, Leonard, discussion? Please.
Yeah.
Lewis? Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Yes.
Leonard, Berman.
Burn, yes. Thank you. Item B, a resolution authorizing the AOIC modernization funding allocation of $272,278.57.
Sanchez moves.
Lewis will second.
Lewis. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Yeah.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe, Leonard, Berman.
Berman, yes. Item C is a resolution creating a special revenue fund and budget for DUI court within court services, $141,522, and it's a grant from IDOT. Leonard moves.
Deputy seconds.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Yeah.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Yes.
Leonard, Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. Item D is a resolution authorizing acceptance of fiscal year 25 firearm safe storage strategies, $48,700 grant.
Lewis moves.
Lewis moves, Tepe second. Discussion. Roll call.
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Deputy yes.
Leonard, Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. E is a resolution authorizing acceptance of the Illinois Department of Public Health, LHD, Respiratory Surveillance and Outbreak Response, the RSORG 25 grant for $1 million.
Deputy moves.
Deputy
Sanchez
moves.
seconds.
Sanchez second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby? Lewis? Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges? Pepe?
Deputy.
Leonard? Berman.
Berman, yes. We need more $1 million grants. F is a
Mr. Chair.
resolution authorizing,
Mr. Chairman, somebody was asking. us.
Linda here, can I ask that the board members use their microphones when they vote? The last one, there were 3. I have no idea how they voted.
I didn't understand.
Microphones, make sure people
Vote
speak
into
into
the
them.
mic
Me?
Mike, we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
with the votes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. F, a resolution authorizing opioid response community implementation project line item transfer to the corner of $30,000.
Deputy moves.
Deputy
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. G, a resolution, emergency appropriation and budget adjustment request amending resolution number 24-076 for $100,000.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez,
Second.
Lewis, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges? Pepe?
Yes.
Pepe?
Yes.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes. Thank you. And under contracts and purchases, item A, a resolution authorizing agreement for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and Trade Adjustment Act programs for program year 2024, $1,771,292.
Lewis moves.
Lewis moves.
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges? Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. Item B is a resolution authorizing judicial facility construction funds for general construction services for with MRRW Construction, bid number 23-032, $449,790.
Deputy moves.
Deputy
Lewis, seconds.
Lewis, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item C is a resolution authorizing MRRW Construction Services for the Judicial Technology Modernization ARPA project, bid number 23-032 for $1,152,000.
Deputy moves.
He moves.
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Surges, yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. D is a resolution authorizing contract for psychiatric services for the Juvenile Justice Center of $41,600.
Deputy moves.
Center,
Deputy moves.
Deputy, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Surges?
Yes.
Pepe?
Deputy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item E is a resolution amending the contract with Ellen Camps to provide additional food and agricultural project consulting services. The initial was for $170,000. We're increasing to $290,000.
Sanchez moves.
Lewis will second.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to this resolution. I would like to, you all should have a copy of it. And basically it's just because
it doesn't really, the way we're passing it doesn't really explain what we're doing. So this is clarification language. So in paragraph 1, whereas King County Development and Community Service Department is seeking to amend a contract with Ellen Camps, we strike a consultant and we replace with the words, the lead consultant working with other approved qualified consultants as subcontractors. And then in the 4th paragraph, whereas the department requests that the contractual not to exceed amount be increased from 170,000 to 290,000 for the delivery of additional project services, we add the phrase to be provided by an approved qualified consultant working as a subcontractor so that it doesn't look like one person is receiving another $120,000.
That's your motion. for
Sanchez seconds.
Amendment. Sanchez seconds. Discussion on the motion. Amendment. Everybody has an understanding of it. Roll call on the amendment to the,
Juby,
Should I?
Lewis,
Louis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Deputy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
as amended.
And we'd have a roll call vote on the resolution itself as amended.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question and ask Mr. Van Kirkhoff to give us an explanation of the finances on this. He explained to me before the meeting some of it. I didn't understand all of it, but I think an explanation would be in order.
Sure, yeah, so back in January, we put out an RFQ requesting qualified agricultural consultants to provide qualifications. In March of this year, the county board approved a resolution approving 2 qualified consultants, Ellen Camps being one of them, and New Venture Advisors being the other one. Also in March, approved 2 not to exceed amount contracts with each of those consultants. Those not to exceed amounts were based on what we were projecting each consultant would do over the next 2 years to meet some immediate needs we have, as well as be able to respond quickly to things like applying for new grants. Because typically we get 30 to 60-day notice on grant applications. So those contracts were approved and executed. Ellen Camp's contract was with her list of items for her teamwork was the not to exceed 170. New Venture Advisors, their not to exceed amount was 305,000. And there was 2 activities that we had in the NVA side of the equation that under mutual agreement with NVA and with Ellen Camps, with our team, that we feel is a better fit, both from a timing and scheduling wise and synergies with the team to move the services listed in this resolution, that being doing administration of our Land Transfer Navigator program grant, which was subject to early resolution, that we have grant we've received from the American Farmland Trust. And the other helping with transition support for our farmland protections program. As many of you know, we hired a new farmland protection administrator earlier this year. She's doing a great job at helping with that transition. She's got a steep learning curve for her program activities. So this really is a shift from $120,000 that we had allocated, budgeted under NVA's contract, to have those services provided under Ellen Camp's contract. So I hope that helps with the further explanation.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes, Mark, I heard you say 170,000 for the Ellen Camps, and then you also mentioned 305,000, and then another 120,000. So is the total about 600,000?
The total stays the same because we're going to be, rather than spending 120,000 for these services through the other consultant, we're going to be now doing this through Ellen Camps. So it's a zero-sum game in terms of what's already been approved under contracts with the county board. It's just a shift of these activities to Ellen Camps.
And as you had explained to me, the employee Janice is no longer going to be an employee. She'll be a contractor. And as an employee, she was being paid about 86,000 plus benefits, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. When I spoke with you, she is Ellen or Janice Hill, retired actually almost 5 years to the date. She's continuing to work with us gratefully on a part-time basis, but under the IMRF rules, she's limited to 500 hours a year. So we've consistently been short in terms of how we can utilize her in our program needs. So yes, this would be a switch from her as a employee to going transitioning to the private sector and working as a contractor and fulfilling those two roles.
Yeah, I think that's important for everyone to understand, because as an employee at $86,000, you also have benefits, health insurance, taxes, FICA on that. That 86 would probably equate to about 100 to 105,000. So the actual difference, as Janice Hill being a consultant, is minimal. It's maybe 15,000 a year, but we're getting more hours out of it too.
Yes, I can't, she's currently paid hourly, up to the 500-hour limit. So I don't have the exact numbers on what that equates to. But I would agree with you that generally, it's about a net sum game, but we get a lot more value out of Janice than we currently enter the restricted 500 hours.
Thank you.
Mr. Surges?
When, Madam Chair and I were just discussing, when we see the name of an individual on this resolution, are we assuming that that's acting as a sole proprietor, or is that an all-encompassing name for a business?
So she is currently organized as a sole proprietor, and she has plans to transition to an LLC based on the structure of her growth.
Well, is there, Mr. Franks, is there a way to do this so that within the resolution, it just picks up the transition, or does that require it to come back to us? Doesn't it, if they're just changing entity forms, is that a brand new contract, or can you do an add-all? Leave it as is. Thank you.
I would have to look at the contracts. There's no way to know without looking at the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I would think in changing an entity's name, legal name, we may have to amend it, but it's basically the contract should be valid.
And just to be clear, she has not formed a new LLC. She's currently operating under contract with us as a sole proprietor. And the amendment Ms. Juby proposed and was approved just clarifies that she's not acting as an individual. She's working with subcontractors.
In regards to the resolution, the changes are fine. In regards to the contract, my intuition is similar to Mr. Leonard's. But again, I would not want to say definitively until I've looked at the actual contract, because some contracts have inclusion clauses that prevent changes unless there's mutual agreement. And so it takes a few steps, but we might be able to do it, no problem.
Any other discussion? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
We have a motion and
Yeah,
to approve as amended.
we already voted on that. Now it's a resolution.
We're voting on the amended motion.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Says yes.
Surges,
This is on the amendment?
No, this is
On
the,
the
this is the main
amendment.
motion.
Motion.
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Who? Item F is a resolution authorizing a contract for the Kane County Emergency Communications for uninterruptible power supply UPS system replacement with installation, RFP number 24-031-TK, $64,919.89.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves. Seconds. Yep, second. Discussion. Roll call.
Juby,
Juby, aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Says yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. Oh. Item G. Resolution authorizing a contract for the Kane County Emergency Communication for professional services for mental health and therapy counseling of $2,400.
Lewis moves.
Juby seconds.
You'll be second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman. Passes.
Thank you. H is a resolution authorizing an agreement with the DocuSign Incorporated for electronic signature software and services, $90,938.80.
Lewis moves.
Lewis,
Juby seconds.
you'll be second discussion. Mr. Leonard,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question on the DocuSign electronic signature software services. Is there any increase in this over the expiring contract, or is this a new contract? I just wondered about cost-wise, how that is affecting our budget.
yes, Roger?
This is Roger from the IT department. Basically, the agreement with DocuSign was something that started during the COVID pandemic. We were electronically signing documents. So this is a continuation of that agreement. And every year there's a software cost increase, and we could bring that back annually each year, or ask for a percentage increase so that we can just continue to use the software. This asks for a not to exceed increase in the annual renewal of 8%. It's actually gone up by somewhere around 5% a year on average. The other thing that we're doing is there's a follow-on resolution to this after, which is Carasoft. And Carasoft has a joint purchasing agreement for DocuSign, and we're trying to get a proposal from Carasoft for the same software, see if we can get a better joint purchasing price and maybe fixed percentage. But the renewal is due with DocuSign, so we're kind of asking for both authorizations at the same time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Further discussion, roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surge,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman. Passes.
Item I, a resolution authorizing the interlocal purchasing system, the TIPS National Purchasing Cooperative Agreement. No dollar amount.
Sanchez moves.
Juby seconds.
Sanchez, Juby, discussion, roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman. Passes.
Item J, a resolution authorizing purchase of technology product solutions and related services for the Information Technologies Department with Carasoft Technology Corporation through Omnia Partners, contract number 23-6692-01 for $300,000.
Sanchez moves.
Juby seconds.
Juby, discussion. Roll call.
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And under other, a resolution. I'm sorry.
Two
K.
vehicles.
I'm sorry, resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 vehicles for the Office of Emergency Management. $99,986.
Leonard moves.
Juby seconds.
Discussion? Roll call.
Juby, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Passes.
Sorry, Scott, I almost. Oh, other, a resolution authorizing job title and pay grade changes for the Information Technology Department.
Surges moves.
Burgess,
Juby seconds.
Juby, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Yes. Oh. Item B is a resolution authorizing a pay adjustment for equity within a pay grade for a promotion in the Building Management Department.
Juby moves.
Julie,
Lewis seconds.
Lewis, second, discuss. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item C, an important resolution authorizing the issuance of a request for proposal for external compensation analysis and review of position grading.
Surges moves.
It's a
Seconds.
external equity study of $150,000. We have motion and second discussion.
Mr. Chair,
That's me.
my understanding is that there's another county that's doing a study of this nature that's going to be sharing all of that study with us.
Sounds good to me.
Mr. Chairman.
I think this came from Human Services, and Ms. Labrillo, are you aware of this at all?
Of course, she's.
Yes, I think Mr. Tepe is referring to Lake County, who is doing a compensation analysis study. And we participated in that, sharing data with them, and in exchange, they will give us their study. Just like McHenry did a couple years ago, when they did theirs, we participated, we received the results of their study. Does that answer your question?
Answers my question.
Okay, go ahead. I just have a problem with this.
You know, I hate to have to agree with Mr. Tepe, but $150,000 for this study, if we're getting one from Lake County, do we have to spend that much for this study?
That is certainly up to you. That is your decision.
That this is a request for proposal, Mr. Chair, so, we haven't expended any funds yet. But, it's important that we conserve as much funds as we can. We have enough issues with funding other things, and that's why I'm just very conservative on this.
Yes, I think if this is just a proposal to see what kind of pricing we're coming in at and whether or not we want to use it, I will vote yes to it. But before we approve the cost on this, I'd like to look at it thoroughly.
Certainly, that would come back to the board. This was just to gauge the board's interest in going out for proposals on that. Doing so and beginning this process does sometimes yield expectations from employees. And so it really wanted it to come from the board, whether we wanted to begin this process or not. So this is just to gauge the interest of the board at beginning the process. However, an RFP process would then be undertaken, and we would then have a contract that would come before the board to approve an exact amount prior to actually committing the funds.
Ms. Bates?
Perhaps Ms. Labrillo would have an opinion or some expertise on, would a report coming from Lake County the same as a report that we would generate from approximately?
No, it was similar to when we did this 2 years ago with McHenry. That would involve us having to state one position is like another.
Okay.
And you really need a full analysis of the job descriptions in each case to determine the value of our positions. Lake County study will only tell us the value of their positions, which are
Okay,
different from
good.
ours.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I have Ms. Gums. Ms. Gums has.
I will allow the committee person to speak first. Thanks, Mister.
All right.
So is the sharing of results from Lake County contingent on us doing our own study? Or
No.
they'll share with us regardless?
It was contingent upon us participating in their study, which we already have done. So there's nothing further.
That was the only contingency. Thank you.
Where are we?
And then Mr. Berman.
Oh, yeah. That's
Gums.
Oh, Gums? Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just I thank you for letting me talk. I'm not on the committee. I just wanted to articulate my concern for Mr. Leonard. I 100% agree that if we're getting data from another county, that's great. However, then we're tethered to their timeline, and I think that's a horrible idea.
Mr. Surges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure that we pointed out this birthed from our committee under the notion that the internal study that was done was extremely taxing. And in many ways had some unintended consequences. The purpose of bringing this here today was to set very clear rules that we want to go outside with. And if this is a study that's going across multiple counties, then we're doing the best we can to team up and create that atmosphere with neighboring counties to gather that and do that as economically as possible. And I believe that's the goal that we're charged with, and that's where we're coming back with this. If these requests come back differently, that would be one thing. And Ms. Gums, I believe at committee, and I believe you were at committee, we discussed the timeline, and Jamie, the timeline I'm thinking was 8 months-ish. I thought it would be 18 months and I was vastly mistaken, so.
We did some research into what other counties have had as for timelines when they've done their studies. So of course, depending on which vendor is chosen and their timeline, that's going to vary some, and we can't really predict that completely. But based on Lake County's projected timeline that was passed in resolution when they adopted their study, we're looking at 6 to 8 months from inception to completion. And, another, item that will be for the board to look at was we could potentially budget this. There's no budget adjustment on here because this is really just to understand the interest of the board to proceed. We could budget this in our 2025 budget and just set to begin at that time so that we are able to work that into budget rather than having a budget exception.
Yeah, so hopefully we're presenting this in a positive light at the desire of the board and looking for direction. And I think this was just the next step to do that. So.
Mr. Chairman. I think, Mavis Bates, I think it is very important to make sure that we have the job descriptions right. I know in some departments, the job title is not the same with the job description county to county.
We'll be tweaking that for the next 5 years. So
well,
we're working it.
We did a lot of work during the equity study. Managers in all the departments upgraded job description or updated job descriptions to make sure they were accurate so that we would have accurate information to use.
Any other discussion? Thank you very much. We're at the point of vote. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Item D is a resolution acknowledging annual review of number of procurement cards issued to the Kane County Sheriff's Office and each of their transaction limits.
Leonard moves.
Leonard,
Lewis seconds.
Lewis, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item E, an ordinance creating Illinois residency requirements for county employees.
Surges moves.
Burgess,
Lewis will second.
Lewis, second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item F is a resolution approving county board personal expense voucher reimbursement request, $655.10.
Leonard moves.
Leonard,
Tepe seconds.
discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges,
No.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
And item G, county board personal expense voucher reimbursement request, $185.24.
Lewis moves.
Lewis,
Juby seconds.
Give a second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Bush, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, no.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Herman.
Herman, yes. Thank you. Item H, a resolution approving the county board personal expense reimbursement request, $2,935.37.
Juby moves.
Lewis seconds.
Motion and second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis, Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, no.
Pepe,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Herman.
Herman, yes.
Passes.
And item I is a discussion. Propose an ad hoc committee to review opportunities and strategies for future budget cuts. And one of our main, I think our main accomplishment as the finance committee is to come up with a balanced budget. And we've done that over the last few years with dipping into our reserves to cover that budget. And I think that as we propose and look at future years, that we're going to have to do that same thing. At some point in time, our reserves are going to run out. And I think that we've talked about looking at different avenues of improving or increasing our revenue. But I think along with that, at this point in time, we need to look very seriously as with an ad hoc committee appointed by Madam Chair to investigate reduction in our expenses. And that's my proposal, and I would hope that the committee would approve that. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why would we want to have a committee just exploring the expenditure side and not a committee that explores both the revenue and the expenditure side?
Well, my feeling is that we need to look at this side first at this point in time. And that's the most important thing. Then would determine what our real revenue requirements are going to be based on that forecast of that nature. To Surges.
Mr. Chair, thank you. My personal feelings are that we could handle that and address that from within this committee, that we don't need an ad hoc appointed to that. We are perfectly capable of doing that right here and beginning those discussions. We just need to make it a priority and set it as an agenda item and make that happen. That's just my personal feeling.
Could it be a special meeting then? If we look at our agenda as it is today, I mean, no way we're going to be able to discuss work on this. And I would hope that this is
Dale, if I can, we give up so much time from our families, from our careers to come here. And I don't want to just be the rubber stamp committee. Here's a listing of things we're expecting you to approve. You can omnibus those.
Good.
I would really like to get to the meat and potatoes of what the finance committee is supposed to do. And to me, this would be the charge, not to dismiss this to some ad hoc committee. And again, if I'm out of line with that, in all respect to my contemporaries here, I'm not trying to cause a problem. I'm just saying, I would love to roll up my sleeves and get into this rather than do what we do on a monthly basis.
I agree 100%. I think the important thing is it's not the chairman of the committee who is the responsible individual. It's for everybody to contribute. And if we can get this from this committee, more power. Everybody has to come up with what they feel in this measurement. Phyllis.
Thank you. I would agree with my friend over there, Jared Sanchez, whoever he is. Well, he got a haircut again. I don't know. No, I actually think we need an ad hoc committee. There's so many times. So the finance agenda was light today, but there's so many times that we sit here in finance and we go over budget, or I mean, not over budget, over our budgeted time limit because we have so many things to discuss. And I don't think we're going to give it the time. I think we have to have an ad hoc, and I would like to see the ad hoc combine looking at budget cuts and ways to increase revenue at the same committee, to Cliff's point, because we do spend so much time here. So I would look at one ad hoc committee, combine the two together.
If the finance committee is going to be that committee, we would need a special meeting to handle it. We certainly couldn't do it at our normal meeting. And now we're saying that an ad hoc committee could bring in people from, or board members from other areas, not just finance. It's one thing about an ad hoc committee that different than the finance committee. But I do feel that it's responsibility of our committee to formulate plans in this nature. And I think the first thing to do is say, okay, looking to the future, what can we do to cut? And with that, then we can go look and say, okay, come up with this. What do we have in the way of how can we increase our revenue to not have to do that cut or to offset it? So, Mr. Lund.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with Mr. Surges. I do like Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Lewis's ideas. However, I think we should handle it here. And I think what we need to do, as Ms. Lewis mentioned, these finance committee meetings many times go over time allotment. Have a special meeting, and if we need 1 or 2 or 3 over the next 6 months, so be it. But I think we should do it here in the finance committee.
I agree. And I think that each individual in preparation for that special meeting has to come up with what they feel, what, is
contribution.
So we've got something to discuss rather than the chairman coming.
Dale, I think the strengths of this particular board and this body is that we have always treated each other with respect. And when we have these meetings, I'm not aware of a committee that doesn't let non-committee members participate, at least that I've seen. Huh?
You'd say not committee member.
No. I mean, in other committees, I don't know. I'm not aware of a committee
right.
where we say, you're not part of a committee, don't
You're
speak.
right.
And I think we work really well together. So just for what it's worth.
No question. Mr. Roth, you had something you wanted.
Well, if you approve this, that special ad hoc would report back to the finance committee what their findings, correct?
Then you can discuss it again.
But I don't see it happening in one special meeting or 3. I mean,
No, that's
we
not-
need it, and in a way, it's kind of input, beginning of the strategic plan. We need to come up with every year we need to look at this.
Well, we're
pretty
talking
good.
about a committee here of 7
Those are pretty
board
good.
members,
Okay.
okay?
Right.
An ad hoc committee with, maybe 3, 5, 7. So we're doing we're same thing, but
Right.
we're the ones that have been selected on this committee in charge of the responsibility of coming up with a budget plans financially for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And everyone's invited to it.
Yes.
Every board member. So, if they want to attend and come to it, great. I mean, I think the more we have, the better off we are.
Ms. Juby.
Thank you. I want to agree with Mr. Sanchez that I think that they go hand in hand. I don't know that they necessarily need to go hand in hand in the first few meetings, but you can't have one without the other. I also agree with Mr. Surges. It should absolutely be done by this group of 7 people who are charged every single month with going through every one of these documents, which are fed from all of the committees to us. And I also would like to address Ms. Lewis's comment that this committee goes way over. And I think that there's been some discussion through the state's attorney's office, correct me if I'm wrong, listen up, John, because I may be throwing you under the bus. There has been some discussion that maybe we should be not dealing with things that are already budgeted. And that would also trim down our agendas and allow us to have these conversations. Maybe in the beginning, we will need a special meeting, but I think it's something that we should always have an ongoing discussion to touch base on every month. And I do not agree it should be an ad hoc committee, and I do not agree at this point it should bring in other board members on the committee. Obviously, welcome to talk about it, give their feedback, things like that, but we need to move it through the committee process like anything else.
Mr. Chair. I don't particularly care whether it's this committee or an ad hoc committee, but it's something that needs to be done now. This needs to be scheduled now. Okay. A few months ago at this committee, I put on a presentation that really supported our finance director and showed that if we continue on the path that we're going on, we're going to deplete all of our reserves, which, by the way, is going to reduce any interest payments that would be getting quite substantially. And that the only way that unless we get additional revenue, the only way we can face things is by cutting personnel. So that means we need to have this committee having not only the elected officials, but also the key department managers involved in this in saying, how are you going to cut your budget by some amount? Whether it's 3%, 4%, 5%, doesn't matter. We've got to do something about this now. So if we're going to do this, and if we're going to do this, the full committee, let's get it scheduled now and let's get it started. But it's going to be at least 1 or 2 additional meetings every month, in my opinion. And I'm ready to start on this with this committee right now. Thank you.
Very good. So the feeling is we don't really need an ad hoc committee. It's just we need to have this committee meet with a specific reason to talk about reduction in our expenses. Madam Chair.
I'd like to thank you all for this conversation. It's warranted, it's needed, and we do need to take a look at the opportunities of both revenue enhancement as well as appropriate budget cuts if needed, because any potential revenue enhancement besides that, which is under the auspices of the county board, such as a sales tax referendum, would have to be approved by the general public and what that would look like. But they have charged us, they have asked us, but have asked us to take a look at how we could potentially reduce our own expenses. So that may not happen. They have spoke many months about this. So we're listening to our voters, the people who have come here to express those needs. And we've had opposite ends as well. So I think a balanced approach is fine. I think that's exceptional. I really appreciate the fact that you have agreed to talk amongst this committee to do this. I commend that. It's going to be a difficult, challenging conversation. And with your permission, Mr. Berman, after we get done with the ARPA committee, I will go to Jane and ask her to query all of you when you'd be available to meet, and perhaps a first 2-hour meeting. Would that be appropriate? So that you can get the groundwork laid and that you can work with perhaps Kathleen and Mr. Tepe to define what the charge of this special meeting will be and how you're going to approach it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, obviously the revenue part of it, is certainly important. But I think the most important thing is to discuss how can we cut? What can we cut? And what is it, what is that going to cost us?
If I may add, what is it going to look like if services are going to be reduced? What is it going to feel like for the county and for the services that we provide to Kane County?
Okay. We're in agreement. And therefore we need to set up a special meeting of a finance committee. All right. Any old business? Reports placed on file. Do I have a motion to?
Tepe requests unanimous consent. Place reports on file.
Any dissent? Then we will have unanimous consent reports placed on file. I have no comments. Executive session, not necessary. Motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Mr. Tepe,
Second.
Doobie? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here.